Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Cash That. This is your host, Joe Dellera, and I have a very special guest on. We had to bring in some reinforcements. We have been deep in the trenches for the Action Network through both of our channels, through Cash That, through Bryan's show as well. And we just got off live on Bryan's show. So hopefully you guys tuned in there. If you haven't, I haven't even introduced him. We got Bryan Fonseca here. Bryan, connoisseur of all the basketballs, like whether it's men's basketball, women's basketball, international basketball, some of the 3x3s. Bryan knows all of it, and he's great at boxing too. So Bryan, it's a pleasure to have you on. I feel like I didn't need to introduce you because we were talking for 40 minutes.
This is true. Yes, we've done so. Again, most frequent collaborators this summer.
It's been
us two right here.
It's been a busy summer, but if you haven't checked it out, check out on Bryan's stream. I'm going to put all the links in this bio. Be sure to subscribe here, subscribe to the YouTube with the Spotify, whatever. We're trying to get the YouTube subscribers up. Started a TikTok, so that's been a little interesting. So subscribe there too. But I'll put Bryan's links down here in the bio as well. Make sure you subscribe, review, all the good things. But on Bryan's show, we took a little bit more of a bird's eye view from how we think the group stage is going to pan out moving forward. So we gave some generic best bets on who we think is going to win each game, which I think is really important and something that you definitely want to have a little bit of consideration into. But what we're going to do today in this podcast, so they kind of are working well together, and the fact that we don't have any games on Thursday, so you're going to be able to listen to these all day Thursday. Some of them you can get maybe in the morning depending on how early you wake up, but there is going to be some opportunity for this for you guys to take some things out of this and move forward with it. I wanted to talk a little bit more player prop stuff. That's obviously kind of what I'm always looking at. And, that's really what my bread and butter is. And I wanted to talk to you about the Japan-Brazil game in particular, and not so much about this. We're starting off hot because I want to start in order. This game starts at 5 a.m. Eastern time on August 2nd. I'm interested. Tell me if I'm crazy, but right now, Rui Hachimura leads the team in points. I think that there might be a little bit of value on a player to maybe catch up to him. So we got Yuki Kawamura. I don't think I butchered his name, actually. And Yuki Kawamura, his points line is set at 13.5 for this game against Brazil. Rui's is set at 21.5. I think this is an interesting spot because Rui only has a 6-point lead over Kawamura for team scoring leader. And right now you can get the team scoring leader for Kawamura. You can get him at basically 7-1. Given what Brazil kind of does, they kind of get things messy. It gets a little bit grimy, right? Do you think that there's any value on Kawamura to maybe be able to pass Rui, or is this just kind of a spot where you're Rui should just get it?
No, I think you can talk yourself into it. And the reason I think you can talk yourself into it is because the way Brazil wants to play is they're going to want to slow Japan down. Japan is not here for that shit. Japan wants to increase the pace. And with Kawamura in particular, he's only a couple points behind Rui, as you mentioned, per game. He's also shooting 32% from the field, which is to say, okay, he's not going to be efficient because he's my height, but he has room for improvement there. There's room for growth there. There is to some degree with Rui Hachimura, who's shooting 40% from the field. But at the same time, if Japan is going to be successful in making the Brazil game a faster paced game, Yuki's going to be the head of the snake as it pertains to that.
Yeah.
And the sort of driver of that.
Yeah, and I actually misspoke. Rui has 44 points scored so far. Yuki has 40. So I do think that there's a little bit of an opportunity here with a guy that shoots so many threes, right? Yuki he's taking 11.5 threes per game, making 4.5. His points line is 13.5. Yeah, like I think that we gotta at least bet 13.5 points in this game. I think it's a little bit too low, I think, but I might rather play the threes if that line becomes available. They haven't really been offering a ton of the 3 point markets for some reason. But either way, you can get Kawamura at 8-1 on DraftKings right now to lead Japan in scoring. And the other reason that I kind of like it too is that in the event that Japan can pull off the stunner against Brazil, it probably means that Kawamura had a big game.
Yes.
In any game that they play after that, if they make it to a quarterfinal, they are going to have to jack up so many threes it's unfathomable because they're probably playing Team USA. Like,
Yeah, or Canada, but
yeah,
or I mean,
yeah.
yeah, USA or Canada for all
Yeah,
intents and
they're probably
purposes.
playing USA or Canada. Like you probably got to shoot a lot of threes. So I do think that like at 8-1, I think it's worth a sprinkle. I think it's like a better way of playing, maybe like a little bit of like the way his points milestones would kind of go. Because you can get him at 20 plus is plus 390. So 25 plus is 14-1. I don't know if he's getting to 25 plus. I think this is more of a bet on saying like, well, he's only 4 points behind Rui. I think he can catch him, and at 8-1, I think there's a little bit of value there too for this game that I think, Brazil could even bring down into the mud to a degree. I think it's going to be a little bit of a tougher spot for Rui. 8-1 sounds pretty good, and over 13.5 I think is a good line for this game.
I wonder if you want this bet, would you root for Japan to just lose now?
Yeah, I
Because
think it would
I
be
think,
better to have them out.
yeah. Well, for one, if he outscores Rui, like, yes, you want this over and done
Yeah, you
with.
want it
Like,
over. Yeah,
duh. So I think that's kind of a stupid question. But let's say if it's tied or whatever the case may be, or he's behind or whatever, and it's like, all right, I still have a chance at winning this. He's behind 8 now or
yeah,
6. He was in striking distance, and it's like Drew Holiday, Derek White,
yeah.
Bam
It's not gonna get
Adebayo,
better. Like,
like.
it's not gonna get better. But I do think that there's a little bit there.
Rory's also going to have to see like Bam and Anthony Davis, and so it's not going to be super easy for him
Yeah,
either. But I do think, yeah, if you take this, you want Japan to also lose, so that you know, and you want Japan to lose, and for Yuki Kawamura to have like 21, and Rui Hachimura gets like 14, 15,
yeah,
and the front line of Brazil just causes Rui to struggle, which again, I bring this up all the time. Brought this up in my stream that we did a little while ago, where Brazil's had these big games where they shut down key guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo struggled against them in the 2019 World Cup. They shut down Canada last year, beat them, I think it was 69-65, and they beat Latvia and Latvia this year. Like, their defense, when they have these big time performances, they're able to stifle some guys, which is to say, if Yuki Kawamura is going to do this, there's a world where he does this and it's super inefficient, but it doesn't matter because Rui also
just
kind of
doesn't
gets
have to
shut
be.
down.
Yeah, he just doesn't have to be efficient. Yeah, and I think
Also,
that's
do we think his 3 point prop is going to be what, 3.5 over under? Because he's made 9 so far.
he's made a lot. I'm gonna see if I can find it quick. I haven't seen it up yet. Let's see.
He's made 9.
Oh, actually, you know what? He is to make 3. Guess the line. It's a good line on MGM. We're gonna bet it like immediately.
Is plus money
Yeah,
180.
200
Oh,
plus 200, and to make 5 is plus 500.
ooh.
So for a guy that, if we actually look at like what he's doing, right? He is taking 18 and a half shots a game. 11 and a half of them are coming from 3 point range.
23 total. 23 3-point attempts in 2 games.
Yeah, so he's been ridiculous actually. He made 3 in one game against Germany, 3 for 8, and then he was 6 for 15 against France.
Yes.
So he took
Including
20,
a couple heaves.
dude,
Also.
he took 26 shots against France.
Yeah. He made more three. He made a fun. What was he to get 3 threes? Bet MGM?
Plus 200.
All right, we have to play this immediately.
It's
I'm not even
actually it's
joking.
not up right now on FanDuel. It's not up on 365. Actually, this we got to bet this right now. He's
We have to.
on FanDuel. It's over 2.5. Is at -128. Four
Brazil has a
is
point guard that's like his size, Iago dos Santos.
yeah.
Like,
This is ridiculous line. I hope we don't nuke it by us betting. This is the one benefit of us doing this when we're not live. Obviously, we're in the studio. We're in Riverside right now, and we're gonna see just how much we can get down on this because this is stupid. This is basically being priced in a way that it should be like. I'm trying to think of the right because he's plus 198 on FanDuel to make 4. So I don't know if this is. I don't think this is an error per se. I mean, I think it's an error. I think it's a misprice. I don't know if it's an error.
What was he to make 5 on BetMGM?
Plus 500, and on FanDuel,
You're taking a shot at that too, right?
He's plus 470. So I think they're pricing the threes to make 3 threes as 4 threes.
Do you go full unit on? Do you go full unit on?
I think I'm going to go full unit on this because you know what? I'm actually looking at just to kind of draw out the inefficiency here. Yuta Watanabe on FanDuel or on MGM rather is -110 to make 3, but he's plus 194. I think they mixed up their Japanese players. I like. I like. Oh, no. This is funny. Because they had to have messed up their Japanese players. There's no way that they didn't just mess this up because there's no way they didn't mess up the Japanese players. Like
it's like when
because everything else is right. Like his 5-3 line is proper because like plus 500 plus 480. I wouldn't go crazy if this line like hopefully this line's still up by the time the show comes out in like an hour. Plus 200 is a smack. Like you should absolutely be putting a unit on it. I think I would arguably put like 1.5. I think the line's wrong, and like this is actually really funny. Like this is just the bad line. Like this shouldn't be the line. My bet has been under review since I told you this. Like for like 5 minutes. Oh, we got down on it. All right, let's see what happened.
Yeah, I'm hitting.
It's still there. It's still sitting there. So I guess I didn't bet enough, but it's still sitting there at 2-1. So let's see.
If you put a quarter unit for him to make 5 threes at plus 500, you can add. You're gonna win back a unit if he just goes absolutely crazy. Or listen, he might go 5 for 15 from 3. Who cares?
Yeah,
you know. But like this is totally logical because Brazil doesn't have a Wemby that he's going to switch out onto. They have good defenders. Don't get me wrong; they have really good defenders, but he can get shots off against Brazil.
This was way more exhilarating than I thought the Brazil-Japan game was about to be. All right, so looking at Greece and Australia, I think this game is fascinating for a number of different reasons. Honestly, both teams could kind of get eliminated if they lose. I think it's unlikely that Australia gets eliminated. We talked about this at greater length on Bryan's show. What I think is important about it, though, is Exum started playing a little bit more. He missed the first game. He played this last game. So I think that's important from like a perimeter defense type of perspective. Giannis might like quite literally have to score 50 points. They've adjusted his lines.
He's plus 100 to go over 28.5.
Yeah. I just don't see a scenario where he can't like where Greece can win if he's not going ballistic. At the same time, if Greece is out of it, like if Greece needs to just flat out win. This is not a game where it's like, oh, like if we can keep it close, we can advance. Like Greece is 0-2. If Greece goes down kind of big, I could see them just kind of like saying like, all right, like we're gonna fold. Like we're not gonna risk Giannis's health. He's not our player. Like whatever. So I'm a little nervous about that type of scenario. On the flip side, Australia is highly incentivized to bury them. There's an opportunity still for Australia to win the group. Tell me why Patty Mills doesn't score 15 points, because that's what I'm seeing his line at. You can see there's like some 15s at like minus 120 or so, or like 15 and a half.
I'm seeing
To
that
me,
too.
to me, walk up is good. I think walk up's a good defender. I think walk up's going to be on Giddy, and then Calthus, he's going to probably be on Mills, maybe.
Collatus, yeah.
Calathis, yeah.
The case against Mills scoring 15 points would just be Australia's offense is very balanced. They typically don't have somebody who, like Greece, is a top heavy offense. It's Giannis and friends.
Yeah.
Maybe Thomas Walkup hits his threes today. Maybe Papa Giannis hits a couple threes and scores on the inside and actually gets some rebounds. Maybe Nick Calathis does more than just set the table. That's kind of what you're looking for. For Australia, it's like we could all get 10 to 15 points. That's how we could beat you, which was the formula against Canada, which, I mean, Canada's streaky shooters all shot very well, which we mentioned. Lou Dort, RJ Barrett, and Dylan Brooks combined 7 for 14 from three. That won them the game, essentially. Also, their wing defense in the second half. Third quarter in particular, really. So that's probably the answer to that.
Yeah.
Can I tell you the prop that I gravitated to immediately?
Yeah, tell me. Talk to me.
I looked at Giannis over 3.5 assists.
Just as like the engine.
He only has 5 assists in this tournament, which is a little surprising to me.
Seems
and it's
low
because
for him.
They need him to get. Yeah, he averages that in the NBA per game. They need him to do more offensively. But I'm like, if you're Australia, why wouldn't you try to force Giannis into being a passer and dare other guys to beat you? Right? Like, why would you? I don't think this is you could play Greece this way if you want. You could be like, hey, Giannis, go crazy. We'll neutralize everybody else. I personally would do it the opposite way, which is send pressure to Giannis, dare the other guys to hit shots, and then if they hit shots, you could adjust. But like Giannis is plus money to get 3.5 threes, and he has not gotten a lot of assists in this tournament, as we mentioned, just 5 in 2 games. And I looked at that one, and I'm like, plus 105 on one particular book.
Yeah, he hasn't had like a ton of assists. Honestly, this entire like international swing. Granted, the minutes are way different now. But if we look back a little bit, let's see. If we look back a couple, let's look at his last one. He was kind of consistently over this. If you look back to his last time he played international, so 2022, he played 8 games, and he was over 3.5 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in 5 of 8. So it definitely is like a little bit of a swing. I wonder to a degree if you like the assists, is there a reason to not just bet like PRA against an Australia team? They're not like a big team. They're not like a super big team. I think they're rangy. I think they're kind of wingy, but
they are physical.
They're physical.
The arguments would be you just worry about like, all right, if they're pressuring that much, is he going to get enough points to get close?
Yeah.
Which I think to your point, you probably still want PRA because like, how else are they going to do this? This is why I tell people these are so difficult to bet on because it's like March Madness. It's like betting on the NCAA tournament where it looks like something could happen and it just doesn't fucking happen. And it happens a lot
all the time
in terms of betting. Like underdogs have been covering so far when you least expect it. It's just been nuts. With Giannis, the other case is just like the assists are plus money and the PRA isn't. Like if you want to just make it that simple, the PRA is 41.5. So you're basically looking at 28, 12, and 2 gets you there, or something like 26, 11, and shit. If you like start saying it out loud, you're like, all right, the PRA might it might make more sense.
It's tough though because I think your point that Australia is so physical It's like, does that maybe force him into a couple extra kicks or something where it's like, I can't get to the rack here.
Foul trouble.
Or, I
He's
don't want to
plus.
get, I don't,
By the way, wait, he's plus money for points, for rebounds, and assists all individually in one book.
yeah.
He's plus 100 to go over 28 and a half. He's plus 114 to go over 9.5 boards.
It's lower. It's
Like
relatively
not
low.
even 10 or 11. Like they're telling you like, hey, like Australia's physical, like Jock
Yeah.
Landale in particular.
Dude, it's funny because I wanted to bet when I looked at this board, I wanted to bet Landale again. His points line is at like 13.5, but it's because of Giannis. Like, and I'm like, but at the same time, I want to bet it. I bet it now 2 games in a row. We've hit both games. We have him as scoring leader for the team. I think that this is the game where I'm going to have to sit it out and just say, like, you know what? I don't want it. I already have a scoring leader, and I'm just going to continue to root for him to score. Like, I think because I have that ticket, I'm not as like, oh, I have to bet this line. It's 13.5 again.
Giannis also has a 7'2" front court mate, Georgios Papagiannis.
He's kind of big. He's a pretty big dude.
It's not Kelly Olynyk out there.
No, he's not.
Dwight Powell. It's
not. So I think that this is like this is the toughest game probably for him to really have to put up a number like that, because I think the number is, or the game, it's like kind of useless, right? But like when they played France in prep, he only played 9 minutes, but he had 0 points, 1 board, no assists for Landale. So to me, like that is a more similar front court to what we're seeing here against Greece. I think I'm going to bet Patty. I think the number is just like a little short for him. It was 17.5 last game, and that's a tough game against Canada for a guy like Patty Mills. Whereas this is a game where I think that Greece's guards, I think Walkup's good, but it's not, Shea, Dort, Brooks. We saw that really tough foul. Patty Mills just laid into, I think it was Lou Dort, just laid into him. But I think that that's a little bit of a different scenario.
I wonder if, last thing, I guess, on Jock Landale, I wonder if they decide, hey, Josh Giddey, Giannis is going to guard you, and Giannis is going to stay back because in doing that, Giannis could also like stay back around the painted area. Doesn't have to come up to the level and meet him. He could be like, all right, if you want to shoot, like I'm willing to live with that. The
only thing Giddey's been low key kind of nice from 3.
Yeah,
like his last games.
I still think you want him shooting threes.
Yeah,
but to your point, like if he's going to keep making them, he's for the tournament, he's 5 for 11 so far.
Yeah, so obviously there's a little bit of noise there, but it's just that it's a closer shot. It's not an NBA 3. Like it's literally not an NBA 3, and I think that makes quite the difference. Like, and I don't want to get too ahead of Team USA, but it makes a difference. Like when you look at a guy like Kevin Durant, for example, Kevin Durant loves shooting that long range too, and now it just happens to be worth an extra point. So it's like it's the best. Like, it's like no wonder he's so good in the Olympics. Like him, Carmelo. It's hilarious when you think about it that way, and you're just like, oh yeah, like of course they're great at shooting at the 3-point line in the Olympics. It's exactly where they like to shoot these long twos. So
Giddey is also 3 for 8 from free throw in this tournament.
So he's got a little bit of room.
3 than free throw.
Yeah, there's a little. One of these is gonna move. One of these is gonna move at least. All right. So for the next game, what we're looking at here is what do we have here next? We've got Spain and Canada, and Spain has really been led by some incredible shooting from Santi Aldama and Sergio Yul. It's been incredible. It was nice to cash that Yule play on our last bet. We had him, for the over 1.5 and the 3+. First quarter cash, sick. 3+ was plus 185. Cash that in the second quarter, like early. I feel like an idiot because I just keep thinking that Spain isn't good, and then they just keep doing things like. Rudy Fernandez and Sergio Yul just look every time they get on the court. Like if you watch these games, a lot of you probably admittedly have not because the games are at 5 a.m. Like Spain is always at the 5 a.m. game. Yule looks like he could be like my father right now. Like he just does not look like a young guy. And look, it's it's been crazy. They continue to just keep being involved, right? What do you think about betting on the player props in this game, given the fact that Canada's already locked up a quarterfinal game, like a quarterfinal berth? Like they already clinched that. We know that they're 2-0. Are you nervous at all about betting any Team Canada props, given the fact that they've already locked in that quarterfinal matchup?
I wanted Dylan Brooks under 13.5 points. That was the first.
It's there.
I look for a Dylan Brooks under. I said it wrong. I looked for a Dylan Brooks under, and then I saw it was 13.5, and I was like, just a little like this,
It's tight. It's tight.
Yeah, he just had a good game to his credit, which is why I was like, all right, maybe now it's time to fade him. But he had 14 in the first game, and he did it on 4 for 9 shooting, so efficient. And he had 16 in the next game. He did it on 5 of 9 shooting. So I'm like, all right, maybe now the inefficiency is going to come. But what if this is the Dylan Brooks game where he shoots 14, 15 times?
Yeah, it's going to happen.
For 15 and still gets over, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was a little too volatile for me. I tell you what, I wouldn't confidently want the over in that one.
I think I would stay away from him. The guy that I think's been really interesting though has been RJ Barrett, former Knick.
Yes.
Obviously,
second guy I looked for.
He scored 24 points against Australia, 24, 7, and 5. Monster. Like that's like a big game.
Great.
Against Greece. Against Greece, 23, 4, and 3. His points prop is set at 18.5. I think that I feel like there's still a little bit of like meat on the bone there. I think it's getting narrow. Do you think that there's anything there, or is it just kind of one of those things that you're like, I don't need it. I think it's moved too much. Like, I don't need it.
I mean, given the first 2 games he's had, but
it feels low.
Yes, but here's the thing. And we know RJ Barrett quite well.
We sure do.
In the Northeast over here. I'm in New York City, for people listening. RJ Barrett, 8 for 14 against Australia, 3 for 6 from 3. 5 for 6 for the free throw line.
Yeah.
Also, that's important.
He's getting to the rack, man. Like he's really getting to the rack. Yeah. That's the thing.
Yes. And then, but against Greece, 8 for 13, 1 of 4 from 3, which isn't great, but fine. 4 attempts only, 6 of 6 from the free throw line. So it's like, all right, are we going to say this is who RJ Barrett is now for the purposes of the tournament? Or are we going to get the 4 for 13, 0 for 5 from 3?
The dud.
Dud. Like that's what you're really betting on. By the way, the under for his points prop is plus money.
Yeah.
Which, that's
like I think I would almost be more interested in RJ. Like you can bet. I think you should just go to 20 plus because you can get plus 106. Or you can get, let's say, because 20 plus on DraftKings is minus 110, 20 plus on FanDuel is plus 106. I would just jump right to 20 plus. I think like if that's how you want to bet him, I think that's how you have to do it. Like just go higher. I would also see, because Spain is a little on the, I would say Spain's like slightly undersized. If you can find a good PR line for Barrett, there is one. I think this is where I would go. RJ Barrett over 24.5 points plus rebounds is how I would want to go against Spain. When we look at what Barrett's done, the 4 rebounds and the 5 rebounds, or no, that was Shea. That's Shea. RJ had 4 and 7. The floor has been pretty consistent. Even when we look back at his preliminary games, 7-4, 7-4, 5 in his last 5 games, including the preliminary games. I think 24.5 is reasonable. He's gone over that in 3 of his last 5. One of the misses against the United States, other misses against Puerto Rico. That was a prep game. We're seeing him play I think the minutes are just a little bit low in both in the United States game and the Puerto Rico game. He played 17 and 23 respectively. I think that's probably where I would go. I think 24.5 might be a good line for RJ on the PR.
I like that more than the points
Yeah,
because
I think I'm gonna lock. Yeah, I
yeah,
think I'm gonna lock
he
that
can
in.
get that.
Actually, I think I'm gonna lock
He
that
can
in.
get
I like
that.
that.
I like that more. My only concern, this is not my concern, but my only concern on behalf of people who are concerned about this is a roundabout way of just saying y'all who may not like this prop. Uh, that would mean somewhere in your head, either one, you don't trust RJ Barrett, which I get it,
Fair,
but this is
valid.
different.
Yeah,
Two would be you think Canada could run away with this. Like Canada's going to show their level right away, and then it'll get to the point where it's like, all right, let's start. The point differential is going to matter to a point, but like if you have the game in hand, you're going to win the group anyway. So it's like, all right, we can save guys for the quarterfinals now, pull the plug early. And if RJ Barrett's not one of the guys who helped them get on the run, what if it's Shea, whatever, then yeah. But I ultimately like, yes, because if he gets 20, you're good because he should get 5, 6 rebounds. He just does that. He's
for
always been a
sure.
good rebounding guard.
Exactly. So that's kind of where my head's at. Shea is at 20.5 or 21.5 points. I'm not super interested in it. I think he's been close. He's been like right around there pretty much every game. He had 16 against Australia, super efficient, got in foul trouble though, and he had 21 against Greece. I just am like, I'm like Shea is like one of those
10 shots
dudes.
each game, too. 10
Yeah, like
shots each game, too. Got that
he's not
money.
getting a lot of shots up. Um, and honestly, like Shea is kind of one of those dudes where like this was my one criticism of him last year was like he can take over games, but it's like he just doesn't really want to. Like he doesn't like go and get extra possessions, if that makes sense. Like
I know what you
he's
mean.
like awesome in the flow of the offense, gets the rack, gets some free throws. But he's not a guy, to me anyway, that's like, I'm gonna go out there and score 50. Like I don't feel like there's never been a
Sure.
game in his career that he goes into
Right.
the stadium is like, I'm gonna score 50 today. So that's one of the things that I don't like, because if it's not just coming, like it's just kind of always one of those things. It's like, well, like if like you said, if Canada runs away with it, they're gonna be like, all right, you're done. We don't need you anymore. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
So the last game that we're really working with
Wait,
for
there's one player I want to ask you
oh yeah,
about.
tell
One
me,
player I want to ask you about for Canada. Do we think this is the Jamal Murray breakout game?
dude, I feel like Jamal Murray has been trying to break out forever for this team, and it's just not happening. Like tell me what
He's
like
he's 8.5 over
that's
under.
I mean that's real low. It's real
He
low.
had 5 against Australia, but he played 24 minutes. And part of that was Shea Gilgeous-Alexander was in foul trouble, but they gave him 24 minutes of run,
So
which is more than everyone else on the team outside of Shea, RJ, and Dylan Brooks. And Dwight Powell, he's a center.
what I thought was interesting about this, even though he got 24 minutes, I'm still wondering if there's like a little bit of like a soft cap, right? Because when Shea came out due to the foul trouble, Murray didn't go in. He came in a couple minutes later. They brought in Nemhard. So
Mm-hmm.
like I don't to me, like I would look at like if Shea came out, I'd be like, oh, we need like Murray's got to be the guy that goes in. Like that would be to me like what I would think is like a little bit more of like a natural switch. Like it's like kind of like a lead guard, can facilitate the offense, whatever. I was a little surprised that that's not what they did. So I do wonder, like, is he 100% still? Is it just that like Team Canada is like, well, we think that even if you're 90%, you're better than a lot of the other guys that we could throw in there. So that's my concern.
He also had, for what it's worth, against Greece, he had 8. And that was in 18 minutes. He shot 2 for 6. He hasn't shot the ball well, but like you can talk me into, and we'll see where I'm at with this. I want to think about it a little more. I'm not going to commit to it. You can talk me into Jamal Murray over. I
Yeah.
don't love that it's only a minus 130 at the book that I'm looking at, but it's over 8.5. Like you can
Yeah.
talk me into that.
I
And
think that,
for that, at that point, you should just probably play 10. Like for
yeah.
him to just score 10 at that point, just to get a
Yeah.
little more value.
I think the problem is honestly too with these props. Like I'm looking right now for the most part, when you're looking at these lines, they're like all super juiced. All like the overs. So like if you could try to find a way to like not play the super juiced line. Like I think that especially with the points props, you're better off because like the difference in terms of like what you need the output to be versus what you're giving up in implied probability. I think that you're better off just saying like, well, like they probably go here. It depends on the player though. Like a guy like Yule who almost only shoots threes, or a guy like Andreas Obst, he basically only shoots threes. Certain players like that, I wouldn't want to go off of like the interval, if that makes sense. So like for a guy like Yule's listed right now at 9.5 points against Canada. I don't really
But
want to go there.
two and a
Go.
half threes
Yes, two and a
for
half
you,
threes. So you're getting,
which
you can kind of save a little bit there.
yes,
So we moved it. It's moved like pretty significantly. So like I have to weigh whether or not I want the 2.5. Given the fact that it moved from plus 185 to minus 122 now, but it still might be a good bet. All right, so Germany France is a fascinating game.
oh boy,
One of the things we talked about on Brian's pod and Brian's show was that Wemby, like, it's weird because it's like he does, like, we've seen him take over games, but he almost like doesn't take over games. And like he started off cooking in that game. Like I was like, oh, he's crushing. Like he's gonna score like 25, 30 points against Japan, and then he literally like just didn't score, and they didn't give him the ball. When you look at this game between Germany and France, we both lean Germany. How are you attacking this? Like, how do you think this game plays out? Like, who is important? Who's the X factor? How does Germany win? Or is this like, or France could win if?
all great questions. I think Obst is interesting here because you're gonna have to stretch that defense.
Yep.
So his threes, because the points are like 7.5, but I think you want his threes more than his points.
Yeah.
That's sort of been how we've looked at him in this tournament, just in general. I'm not seeing his threes up yet.
I don't
am
see a
seeing the
line yet.
points. So
Yeah.
if he's at 7.5, then he's probably going to be at 2.5 or 1.5 threes rather. 2.5 would probably get good value on that.
It would have to be like pretty plus money.
You know, Dennis Schroeder's going to have high usage because he has to. And you know he doesn't give a shit about Rudy Gobert being in the paint, Victor Wembanyama. Like he's gonna try to shoot over the top. He's gonna try to attack them. Like he doesn't fucking care. Franz is at 19.5, juiced too, like minus.
He's, I think, has the hardest matchup in a way.
Yeah, me too. I don't love his 19.5
because like Batum, he's not super fast. So like when you have guys like Fournier is a bad defender, but like if you look at France, like they've been running Batum a lot. They've been running Yabusele. Like they've got some options there. And then I think like he has to score on the interior for the most part. Like he's not shooting a ton of threes. And then you're going to be running into Victor and Rudy. So I don't love Franz as good as he's been. Right.
Also, this one book has. Do you mention books on here?
Yeah, you say whatever you want.
Okay. They don't plug your show, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, I try not to say them on mine.
I want to tell people where to go.
All right. DraftKings has this. Victor Wembanyama is minus 225 to lead in blocks for France. Rudy Gobert is plus 160, and he's one block behind Victor right now.
That's
Rudy
not
plus
bad.
160. Rudy plus 160 to just be team blocks leader when they're this close is interesting to me.
Yeah,
Wemby obviously has like more upside there, but you know,
I think that makes a lot of sense. I was looking too at Rudy to out rebound him in the tournament. He's down 2 and he's plus 225. I feel like I could go either way on the like. I think that both are honestly like valid looks here. Given kind of what we're kind of saying, we're just like, look, you want to bet a little bit on variance. They keep also opening these props every game, like after every game. So like you just need one big game, and then all of a sudden you can bet both sides, and then you're like gonna lock in a profit because it's really a 2-man race. Um, this is a game. So I kind of think that I feel like this could be like a really good Rudy Gobert game. That's my one concern for that. Like, that's why I think France could win. Because
I think France could win too. By the way,
yeah,
I wanted Germany. We both wanted Germany before the line dropped, and then it was Germany favored, and we were like, and
yeah,
now they're -3,
yeah,
which was originally, I think it opened at -1.5. I
yeah.
think.
This is how I want to put it. When Rudy has played, I'm looking back, like some of these numbers are wonky. I'm just not gonna get super into it. But like basically, when Rudy has played Daniel Tice in his career in the NBA, he's averaged 11.2 rebounds per game. Over the last couple, he's had 11, 16, 11, 18, 11, 14, 13, 12, 12. Rudy's rebound line for this game is at 8.5 at plus 100. I think,
106 at FanDuel.
yeah. Oh, even better. Um, I don't. I don't hate it. I don't hate the look. You can get 10 plus at plus 155, or let's see what FanDuel's got it at. Rudy's plus 156 FanDuel, so you get an extra penny. I think that there's probably a little bit there because they're gonna run guys like they have to keep size in the court. So like you're gonna have a Tice who doesn't really he stretches the floor like a little. Mo Wagner tries to stretch the floor a little bit, but still not like the best floor stretcher. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Rudy to just like clog the paint, especially like when we're talking about like how Franz Wagner scores, how even Dennis Schroeder scores. I think there's going to be a lot of like easy boards for him to kind of grab.
He had 15 against Japan in the overtime game. He had
Yeah,
3 against Brazil. I think that's the concern.
that's the thing. It's like, like you know.
I listen. I like the look. I don't love betting on Rudy Gobert in general, but I
I
like the
love him.
look,
The French
and
fry.
it's also plus money to
Yeah.
get 9 boards in a game where, like, to this point, I actually looked at Mo Wagner also because I'm like Germany, and the reason why I like Germany before is because like they're going to be super. You know what they are? They're going to be super physical.
Yeah.
We know that.
That's their
Mo
thing.
Wagner is at 5.5 boards. We don't know like what the minutes will be exactly, but he'll be out there for a fairly significant portion of the game. I don't hate
Yeah.
Mo Wagner at 5.5 either.
And when we look at what Wagner's done so far, he had 6 boards against Brazil, 5 against Japan, 7 against the United States, 5 against Japan, 5 against the Netherlands in prep. He's playing about 16 minutes a game. I think this game, I both teams advanced. We already know that. Both teams are 2-0.
Yeah.
We know both teams are advancing. This is very important, I think, because there's the potential to avoid the United States basically entirely until a final. If you win this game, France seems like to be like a very fraudulent 2-0, very sketchy. So, you know, take that. Like, you know, take that. This is a game that I think both teams are going to like really come out and try to gun for. So like I think you maybe you start seeing this is the game where you're like, oh, the rotations got a little tighter. Like I know that it doesn't like it's kind of weird because it's not an elimination game, but at the same time you're looking at it and you're like, well, like this game could be pretty tight. This game could be really close. Germany beat France 70-65 in the prelims. But the rotations were crazy. Like Gobert played 21 minutes. Koulibaly played 23 minutes. We haven't really seen him play that many. Wemby didn't play. Germany, Franz had played 20 minutes. Schroeder played 27. So like Mo Wagner played 17, but like Bonga played 21. Opes played 16, didn't shoot the ball. That's actually kind of interesting. He played 16 minutes, only took 2 shots in a game that you would think that he might have played. So very like interesting. I do wonder maybe Voigtman gets some minutes, get some extra burn as like a big dude. Um, he's gotten 8 boards, 6 boards, 8 boards, 8 boards, 7 boards in his last 5 games. Maybe that's a look too, but I don't see his lines up anywhere right now. So that's always the other concern here when we're betting. We're betting anything. Can we get an offering? Who do you think comes out of the game quick? I think we both are on the same side.
I'm still gonna roll with Germany.
Yeah,
I just have an easier time trusting Germany than France, given what we've seen so far in the tournament.
I think so too. All right. I'll try to make your misery brief for this then, because we're going to go to United States, Puerto Rico. We don't really have any props up. I think this is the Joel Embiid game. It's so perfect.
Killing me.
It's so
for
perfect.
those of you who don't know, I'm Puerto Rican. And we're fucking our women's team is not cooked. Our men's team is cooked.
Dude,
our women's team has a chance.
This to me is like the perfect game for Joel Embiid. He sat out last game against South Sudan, which if you guys tuned in to the Cash That podcast last time, I talked about how South Sudan is like this like they're super athletic, whatever. I also talked about how Joel Embiid specifically changes like the formula of Team USA basketball. When you watch them today or yesterday, whatever, they are just moving around, like they're flying around. Like it's just a totally different type of ball game. The ball moves differently. I think that Puerto Rico is going to want to speed the game up, which is a scary proposition for a number of reasons. But Joel Embiid doesn't do that. I like George Condit, fine player. This is the exact type of player that Joel Embiid loves to put in a fucking body bag.
God.
You know it.
Brutal.
Like
this is brutal.
Like I know that I tried to go off of this type of like thought process when we took Tatum 10 plus 220, whatever. Tatum still kind of sucks. Obviously, he doesn't suck, but like whatever. Fucking Boston Celtics fans, chill out. Tatum obviously doesn't suck, but like it was the same type of idea. I'm wondering. I don't know what kind of line they're going to give us for Embiid, but I'm very interested in betting in this particular spot because this is a game that the United States like. It doesn't matter. They clinched. They advanced. This is like the most perfectly scripted game for Joel Embiid to have like a 50-point Olympic performance, break a record. Like, and everybody's gonna be like,
well, I don't know if he's gonna get 50.
No, but you know,
do you think?
Do you know what I mean?
Do you think it's gonna be 8.5 like they did with Tatum, basically, something like that? Embiid's points.
Maybe it was a 10.5. They said it at 10.5 today. And then he didn't play, so that was.
Can I take the over on George Condit fouls instead?
I mean, you could take unders on like Condit, right? Because like you just assume he's gonna foul out.
Oh God! And then he's gonna be guarded by Ismael Romero. Honestly, like, here's the thing: like, for people who don't know, the Puerto Rican national team, they're gonna try to play fast. They're gonna shoot a lot of fucking threes, just a lot of threes.
Yeah,
I ate fucking sand with Tremont Waters and Jose Alvarado overs after they've been so good to me before this.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
In threes, that was brutal because the game just got out of hand. They just sat both of them, and it was like, and they didn't shoot much in the first half at all because just other guys are making threes. It's just game script didn't game script is the point. Happens. I think that's something to watch out for. And if they're making the threes, I wonder if they pivot away from Joel Embiid. Like, all right, like they're actually hot from three, which, look, in the first half against South Sudan, they were 10 of 15. In the first half, even against Serbia, they were 7 of 16. This is what Puerto Rico does. They shoot a fuck ton of threes because they're small and they're fast. They have one player on their roster who is above 6'8". One. That is George Condit, the fourth, who is a good G League player and a good player in Baloncesto Superior Nacional in Puerto Rico. He is not going to guard Joel Embiid effectively. Although, I've told you this before. He's had big scoring games
Yes.
or big games in general. Like he lit up Boban Marjanovic one of the first games he played on the national team a few years ago, which was shocking. It's like
Yeah.
this dude from Iowa State who played with Tyrese Halliburton just came in here and got 20 in like 20
It
minutes.
was like,
I
what
don't
is
know if he's
this?
going to do that though. I don't know if he's going to do that though. They just don't have the size for Joel Embiid if he does in fact play heavy minutes.
Yes. So that's why I'm like, look, if they're gonna give me a line, I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna probably like smash it. Like I'm gonna want some of the alts, I think too, which is not something that I've been wanting to do for Team USA because Team USA like it's tough because you're basically betting on lines. If you want them to go over, they're probably not going over by a ton just because of the way that they spread the ball around. Unders have to be more profitable with Team USA because they're literally setting the point totals to a point where it's like if everybody hit their point total, Team USA would score like 150 points. Like that's like how they're setting these lines.
Yeah.
So like you really got to pick and choose like exactly where you're going. I just think that to me like this spot just sets up like perfectly for a massive Joel Embiid game. I will say too before we get into that, and well, actually, we'll do that after. We'll talk about Serbia briefly. Um, Serbia, South Sudan, really fascinating game. I think I'm going to be looking at Jokic boards again. I think that's going to be where I want to go. Is
One
there
of the
anything
only
that's
things I hit today.
Yeah. Is there anything that's interesting to you about this game? I have one other thing that I want to get to before we get to pods and Rex. But this game, I think there's the most time before we get there, but like it's also one of the games that I think is like least interesting. It's interesting because like I think South Sudan's been really good, but at the same time, I think that Serbia isn't super concerned about them.
Really, I think this is arguably the most interesting game left because it's the last one.
Because the last one, and
Because it's the
there's
last
so
one.
many different angles.
I think, yeah, France and Germany is the most interesting game, but they're both qualifying.
Yes.
Serbia and Sudan, they're the last game of
One
group.
team could
We're gonna know
actually
exactly. Yeah, we're gonna know exactly how, like, what are the points that are gonna be needed, and what are the scenarios, and can
Yeah.
both teams advance?
So I guess that's actually the good point. Like that's the point, right? Because it's the last game, we'll know exactly when and like what to bet on. Like we'll know exactly like what South Sudan needs, what Serbia needs, and then that kind of gives us a little bit of an angle that we wouldn't have going into the game. So maybe there's a little bit of a spot here for us to find a little bit of value, but it's going to be hard to know until all the other games are done. We'll have a better feel maybe for it after the games on Friday. We'll probably have a pretty good idea of what's like the loser's chance would be to advance in that event, right?
We're gonna know because the point differential, which we talked about, Serbia is plus 15 right now, and South Sudan is -6. That's it, because they beat Puerto Rico by double digits, and Team USA they actually covered against them, so they can both advance depending on how things shake out. I think we're gonna get 3 teams from Group A, and I think we're obviously gonna get 3 teams from another group. It's gonna be the loser of this or the Brazil Japan winner is going to be that 7th or 8th team who advances. There's a world where it can be both of them and no third team from Group A, but that's just unlikely given the point differential.
Agreed. All right. So I didn't see this market before. I think it's popped while we were recording, so I'm just going to throw it at you live. FanDuel's just reopened for the whole tournament. Most total points, most total rebounds, most total assists for the entire tournament. I think this is particularly interesting because the favorite is RJ Barrett to lead in points. He is plus 320. RJ Barrett has scored the second most points so far at 47. Giannis has 61, but we don't think that Greece advances, right? Santi Aldama's at 46. We don't really think Spain goes super far. But the thing is, like, if we can if there's like a shot in the barrel of like getting somebody that could maybe get into a medal game, there's some value here. But like, if you read down the list, Jokic is 9-1. Jokic only has 34 points. So like RJ Barrett's got a 13-point advantage over Jokic already. So I'm kind of fascinated by this market right now because I don't know if there's really a guy that makes a ton of sense. Kevin Durant is maybe the most interesting. He's 12-1. He's at 37 points. He's tied with Shea, tied with Wemby, 2 behind Franz Wagner at 39. I don't know. There's not like a ton of other value that I see here based on the fact that like some of these guys are like so far back. Like Bogdanovich has 27. He's 20 points behind RJ right now. If you're not on Team USA, it's hard. Like you're basically like, it's hard to say like, yeah, like I definitely think they're going to make a medal game.
Let's also remember though, you're going to have 4 cracks at this.
Yeah.
Because 4 teams are going to play the maximum amount of games possible.
That's what I'm getting 6. At. Yeah.
I missed the old Olympic format where it was 6x2 instead of 4x3. I tweeted that out earlier because we have now 3 groups of 4 instead of 2 groups of 6. And before you would have everyone playing a minimum of 5 games before we get to knockout, and you would get more heavyweight matchups early. And it was just the top 4 teams in each group advance, and it was just easier and better because, you know, some of the other teams like Puerto Rico will get to hang around longer. Franz Wagner plus 900 is interesting, but I kind of feel like why he's plus 900, but Dennis Schroeder's plus 2,700. I feel like I'd rather just take Schroeder.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. Schroeder's at 33 points. So he's behind Barrett, but like I do think that there's a little bit of upside here. The problem with, I think, either of these players is that they have, especially like the Germany-France game, that's a tough game for them. Whereas Canada's got a little bit of a lighter game, realistically, against Spain. So it's interesting. I think I'm perusing this market a little bit. Like Giddey is 42-1. Patty Mills is 100-1. Like I think that it's a way to bet on some of these teams. Like Jacques Landale's 100-1 too. I think it's a way to bet on some of these teams. Like if you think they're going to advance, this might be how you want to try to bet them on like a really, really long shot spot. Because it's like, yeah, sure, like they can make a medal game, they can make something, but like what's the byproduct of them getting to that game? And it's that one of these players is going to have a shot at like having that massive point total, I think.
I think I like Schroeder the most on this entire list.
Yeah, I think that 27-1 is pretty nice. And because he's the favorite for most assists, he's a plus 180. Right. So like there is a little bit of conversation there, I think, saying like they're gonna play a lot of games.
The thing is also, France is not an easy matchup. However, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we're watching the game and it's like, oh, Evan Fournier can't guard him, and he got Rudy Gobert on a screen again, and oh shit, he's 4 for 6 from 3. Oh, Wemby switching on to him now. He's a little too fast. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It wouldn't. Now back to Dennis Schroeder over 17.5 points or whatever it was. Like there's a world where he lights up France.
Yeah.
There's a world where he absolutely
because I think that's a good matchup.
There's a world where like there's a pathway to doing that, because if you're talking about how big and physical that game's going to be, if you like Dennis Schroeder to go over in that game, you might as well take a shot at plus 2,700 to lead.
Because you know he's getting through. You know they're getting through. Like they're going to make the quarterfinals. They're probably going to win that game.
From there, you basically need to look at players who are on teams that could win a quarterfinal game.
Yeah.
You win a quarterfinal game, you're going to get 6 games. Because you're guaranteed 2 more.
And the thing that I think is notable too is like you almost certainly want a foreign player, because Team USA guys like never win this. They literally never have the most. I don't think they've had somebody that's had the most in like 20 years or something like that. So it's a long time. For assists, I'm a little interested in LeBron at plus 280.
Me too.
I think that's LeBron's got 14, Schroeder's got 18. He's in the lead right now. Lorenzo Brown's got 17. He's going to be out. Jokic has 17. Serbia is probably going to be in the tournament for a bit, but
I'm interested in Jokic also.
I'm interested in Jokic and LeBron. LeBron's plus 280. Jokic is plus 360. Giddey is 10-1. Those are probably the guys that this is going to settle within. We'll see. I have to make some decisions. Yeah.
End of list. That's it. Those are the guys.
That's it. Schroeder is obviously there too.
Yes.
So it's
plus 180.
Plus 180.
I don't feel the need to rush into that.
I don't want to bet that at plus 180, but I'm interested in. I think the number for Jokic really can only get shorter because this game against South Sudan is a knockout game. So, like, in a way, right? Like, if they somehow beat Serbia, Jokic might be out of this too. So I think there's like maybe like 10, 20 cents of juice cooked in on this line at plus 360, just based on the fact that they haven't locked in a quarterfinal spot yet. I think that there's a little bit of value on Jokic, probably at plus 360, even LeBron at plus 280. If you got the LeBron to lead Team USA in assists, this is maybe a way to like roll a little bit of that like into this at this juncture. Probably should have bet it before. But I think even now, like you can still assess the situation and say like, all right, there's a little bit there. For rebounds, I just wanted to hit it quickly. For rebounds, we're looking at the leader right now in rebounds per total rebounds is Jacques Landale at 21. He is like barely on the list for
plus 700.
Yeah, barely on the list. Plus 700. He's fourth.
Behind Jokic, Wemby, and Anthony Davis.
Yeah. So do you think that there's anybody here on this list that you're like, I'm interested? Like, I think I could get behind one of these guys to grab this type of rebound line, because Australia, as good as we've thought that they are, it's possible they're eliminated on Thursday. Almost. It's unlikely, but it's possible. It's possible.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think that if you like Rudy Gobert to lead France potentially in rebounds, you might as well also look at plus 950 here.
Plus 950. And honestly, the concern with France is like, they haven't looked great. Could they just lose in the quarters? Right. And then Victor and Gobert are both realistically out of this. If you look at it that way and you say, okay, the two guys from France and Jacques Landale, Australia, if they're all out, you're looking at a scenario where Jokic has 20, Gobert, and then you're down to Anthony Davis 15. Maybe there's some value.
If France loses to Germany, you're playing with fire there. That second round matchup could be Canada, it could be Australia, it could be Serbia. Like that's sort of what you'd be looking at there.
Yeah.
I almost think that if now saying that out loud, if you think Germany's going to win the game, you could probably wait and get this at a better number.
Yeah.
That also comes with more risk. Because on one hand, if you do wait and get it at a better number and you bet it, they could just lose right then and there, and then you're screwed.
It's over, yeah.
Or you take the chance and they actually win the game against Germany.
Yeah.
And then,
and I think that drops. Honestly,
even if they win that game though, Joe, you might not get an easy matchup in the next round.
No.
Even if you're 3-0.
No.
You still could be looking at like the third place team from Group A.
Yeah, and I do think that it's a good, like I said before, I think it's a good game for Gobert. So a couple things to think about, a couple lines for you guys to kind of look at. I'm gonna move off of that for now And I do want to hit you with Bryan. This is one of my favorite segments of the pod. It's called Pods and Recs. Basically, we just recommend anything. It could be literally anything that you want for the listeners. Hit us with something.
What are some examples of past?
Okay,
I want
so
to know what I'm up against here.
I'll
This
give
is a
mine
lot of
because I've
pressure.
recommended some crazy stuff. Like I've recommended like soups. I've recommended like things to do. I've recommended just the most random stuff. So for me right now, I'm gonna recommend. I think I've recommended this relatively recently, but I got chicken sausage patties and they're kind of awesome. Like you just throw them on. It's good for breakfast. It's not bad. Like just get them like a little bit browned up on the pan. Kind of sick. I'm also going to recommend staying hydrated. It's getting hot right now. I walk around with this big ass water bottle. You guys see it. Like I drink on it. You probably can hear the ice clanking around sometimes. Well, like mid pod. Stay hydrated. I think it's that time of the year where, you don't realize just how much you're losing. Just take a sip between sets when you're in the gym, put it on the nightstand, just stay hydrated. It's good for you.
I'm going to recommend. Damn, you got me thinking about food. There's a bunch. I've been in the
So many
kitchen more
things,
lately.
man.
This is a lot there, but I'm actually going to recommend something different. I'm going to recommend at-home boxing workouts for people. Just try it. Try it, because I think this has been great for me. Even though I'm losing too much weight now, I need to like. The problem is I don't eat enough calories all the time, so I need to like
It's a
I
good
need to
problem
load
to
up on
have in
carbs
a
a little
way.
bit more. I need to load up on carbs a little bit more. But reason why there's a few different channels that do a really good job with this. One of them, free plug, Precision Striking on YouTube, has great at-home boxing workouts. I go to a gym also, but there are times where it's like it's raining, or like I'm in a time crunch and I just need to like do something at the crib, and I have enough stuff here to get it done. I recommend that for people because it's healthy. It's an easy way to like if you're trying to lose weight, which I'm not. But if you are, it's an easy way to do that. Also depending on your calorie intake, and it's like you're kept off your phone for 30 minutes or whatever
Yeah.
it is, whatever you choose. And you get to just learn things like there's beginner friendly stuff. You get to learn easy combos or whatever the case may be. I recommend people do that because it's just a great like workout you could get in at home for free in a lot of cases. Um, and if you like it enough, yeah, you have a local gym somewhere that probably teaches boxing classes. I
Hey,
go to a title right here where I'm at. I go there pretty regularly. So there's that.
a lot of opportunities there. We love it. So, guys, it was a pleasure to have Bryan on. You can find Bryan at Bryan Fonseca. You can get his YouTube. I'm gonna put it in the link in the bio here. So whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple, whether you're watching us on YouTube, I'm gonna put it in the bio. Make sure that you like, subscribe, follow us, all of the things. Comment here. Just let us know how you're doing. Let us know if you do that boxing class. Keep punching. I know we're in the dog days of summer, but look, keep punching.
Yes.
Stay hydrated between sets. Stay hydrated between your bets, and let's continue to cash that.